She cannot decide whether to sleep with her curtains drawn or spread. When she sleeps with the curtains drawn, the sun shines right in her eyes in the morning, often causing her to wake before she would prefer. But when she sleeps with the curtains spread, she wakes to a cavernous room with no incentive to get up and to start her day. She can never seem to get it quite right. Her window looks out on an uninteresting part of California, not a place about which songs would be written. Excepting this one, the narrator supposes. She ponders the lyrics of the song that she is listening to, the first distraction in a long relay that is to play out throughout the day. Quote, "My dear, it's all downhill from here." End quote. She always wondered if that was a mantra of positivity, or one that recognized the inevitable downward movement that so often characterizes life. She supposes it depends upon what lies at the bottom of that particular hill. The room has remained cavernous on this specific occasion, and she lingers in the same spot she has been since she forced herself to sleep the night before. She thinks of the friends she has not seen since her previous chapter, and how she would likely not see them again until a few chapters on. Then she thinks of all the books she has read, and wonders if the books wanted their pages turned, or if entering into a new chapter was as forcible for them as it was for her. She thinks again about the lyrics to the song, but not the same song as before. This one was a lullaby that her mother sang to her in her childhood, a song that had nothing but positive memories. Oh, to be a bunny perched atop the earth, pleasures aplenty and predators a dearth. Oh, to be a robin, to live so much higher, to sing a little song, never drawing iron. She thinks of all the places she shared with the people she would never see again, if she had a say in it. She thinks about the shadows that run her life, the names that, if uttered within her earshot, could pull the thread on her whole day, week even, depending on the context. She wonders how she became so easy to derail. Maybe she went through the wash a few too many times. She gets up. As she brushes her teeth and braces herself for the mundanity of the forthcoming day, she feels her body ache and wonders if she hadn't been taking care of herself, or if this is just how people feel when they age on top of cheap mattresses. She can never seem to get it quite right. In the mirror, she spots something that is not to her liking. She also couldn't tell whether this something was an abnormality, or if something had been on her face for a long time, and it was only through the chance operation of seeing oneself in the mirror that this something came to her attention. She was running late. She would have to worry about that later. The day was young, but aging slowly, and after she had dressed, she walked down the stairs job, which was nice. She still had music in her ears. Looking straight ahead as she made her way down the tree-lined street, she was going to switch off now. Or at least part of her was. She figured she shouldn't use her limited amount of sincere attention on events that occurred in an office building. She had come into a wellspring of counterfeit attention that she would trade for her wages, which then she would trade for a place to live and a treat or two here and there. Decorate and make the passing of time more to the sidewalk. Within walking distance. Wellspring. Sincere attention. Passing of time. Slowly. Charge us slightly higher. After the off-brand tumult of the day had passed, she performed the inverse operation of her morning routine. She walks up the stairs from the blocky O courtyard, enters her door of her apartment with the window that looks out on an uninteresting part of California, made slightly more interesting by the changing light of the approaching evening. Sometimes the shadow is more interesting than the caster. She unburdens herself from her bag and her cardigan. She moves things from shelf to counter and from table to shelf, shuffling her belongings until they are in an acceptable order. After a bit too long spent decompressing, she made her way to the bathroom to get something. She was fiddling with this and that when she met her own eye in the mirror. She looked at her face, wondering if she looked more gaunt than usual, if she hadn't been eating, sleeping right, or if this day had bore itself into her in a special sort of way. Once again, as earlier in the day, via the chance operation of using the mirror, she spots something that is not to her liking, but even with more time than before, she could not tell whether this thing was new or an artifact just discovered. She picks up her tweezers and a magnifying mirror from the three-tiered part by the tub and went for a closer examination. She poked at her skin with the tweezers, trying to see if there was a hair or a bit of grime she could coax from this spot on her skin. Even if there was not, she knew she was damned to prod herself until the skin she was going at was red and raw. She had a hard time stopping herself when she got into these modes, even when it became clear, like it was becoming now, that there was not going to be the prize of hard-fought eyebrow hair or the relief of clearing some clogged follicle. She could never reason with her hands to put down the instrument until she had made something worse than her original aim. On this occasion, she reckoned after a struggle that she would not succeed. With this skin on her cheek red and raw, she put down the tweezers and she put down the mirror. What she was picking at was was immutable. The evening turned into night, and after her nightly rituals, she tumbled onto her bed. She looked at the ceiling, then out the windows. California had become uninteresting once again. The dark of the sky flattening her vistas rather than providing them with some sort of inky depth. The street lamps were an ugly color.
She can never seem to get it quite right.
She laid down. She was surrounded by thoughts of the day and of the days like this one that surrounded her on either side. She felt beat. It was far from pleasant. She thought, as the poetically inclined but unfulfilled do, about some moments from this day in a metaphorical sense, trying to formulate something meaningful, trying to imbue with meaning the ongoing ennui fest she knew as her routine. She thought again about the bathroom and the blemish on her face. She felt like a fool, having spent what in reality wasn't much time, but was still some fraction of her waking moments worrying about something so inconsequential, especially because she lost that little battle. She wondered how much of her life was like this. How many times did her hands beat her brain in keeping grip of the tweezers? And how many times did that happen without even a consolation prize? How much of her life had she spent holding the magnifying mirror? She beat herself up. She, in this instant, felt angry about all the little fractions spent on fruitless battles like that one. If these were bits of clay that fell to the floor, what could she sculpt with them? How many poems could be written in the time she spent picking at Freckles? She knows she is not a machine, and that output isn't the only or best way to measure a life. But a nagging question like this does not make a secure dock to launch your boat from as you drift to sleep. She thought she should show herself some more grace. She thought that, but did not know if that was something people said, or if it was something actionable. She lacked, she thought, actionable things in her life. But she had an actionable thing to face now. As her uneasy eyes became heavy, and she tried to force herself to let her boat drift